Hello there everybody, and welcome back to another episode of An Ecologist Plays Grounded, the game where we are miniaturized and trying to survive in quite a hostile world. Now, as you can see, the base has expanded a little bit. We now have a nice little sunroof at the top here. We also, if we come down the steps over here, and we go out the little door here, we now have a dew collector, which will enable us to just constantly have a water supply at our base as well. Nothing yet else in this room over here, except for quite a few nice little windows to look out towards the outside. And then going lower down here, nice little railings. We've got our 3 spinning wheels, of course, going on as always. And we've got our 2 drying racks, our 2 jerky racks over here, also doing their thing. Down below, though, we also have the same stuff still going on here, but we are able to now also craft a few extra things. We are going to be crafting the insect hammer, finally, which will enable us to actually open up molars. And off screen I also have collected some crow feathers using the insect axe that we also got in the last episode, and we can now craft the crow crossbow, which will be a much stronger ranged weapon than our basic old sprig bow that we currently have. So might as well trash that one and replace it with our new crow crossbow, and also trash our old hammer and replace that with a big one. Right. We're also just going to craft our Canteen Plus over here so we can hold 4 water droplets wherever we go, and that is going to be very useful as well on our little travels now. And we can, of course, fill it up by equipping it on the hotbar there, and then just pressing E to get some dewdrops from our dew collector, which is now marvelous. And then we're ready to go on a little adventure. Now, today we are getting ready to tackle the wolf spiders, and we're going to be able to do that in the next episode on Friday. So stay tuned to see how well or how poorly that turns out. For now, however, we are going to go back to the hedge, and we're going to do the Hedge Lab to get everything associated with that. And I'm not going to show you the entire Hedge Lab. There are a whole lot of videos on YouTube also focusing on how to run the Hedge Lab, but I'm going to be focusing on some interesting things that we find there. Now, the thing with the crow crossbow, you'll see here, is it does have a slow reload speed, but the firing is quite rapid. As long as you don't try to aim with it, because then you're just going to fire blindly. Oh, but when you do connect, it is a nice, powerful crossbow. And quite accurate as well, he says as he misses. There we go. Now, a shout out goes to Meow, who suggested that I craft the insect axe and use that against the wolf spider. And there is, in fact, a wolf spider sleeping right over here. We are going to be attacking it next time, not today. Now, I've been testing the insect axe against the wolf spider, and it's been surprisingly effective in the world where my wife and I are playing. And we've been destroying the wolf spiders quite a bit there. So I'm pretty much ready to do that. But in this game here, we'll be doing that next time. Let's leave the amazing thing to do for the Friday episode. For today, however, we are going to just meander into the hedge over here and do a few things there. Now, as I've said, I'm not going to show you how to do the entire lab. There are lots of YouTube videos on how to do that. For our purposes, however, we are just obviously going to climb up here along this little paperclip stick and then head up in this general direction. And I'll see you in a moment when there is something interesting to comment on. Now, not long after starting, you do get the zip line over here, and we'll get down to that raw science in a moment. But carrying on along this branch, however, and you have to make sure that you've got a little dandelion tuft equipped for this journey. But we are going to just make our way along the leaves over here to this point over here. And then it's just a matter of jumping onto that leaf over there and onto this here to get to the first milk molar of our journey. And I missed it. Okay, I finally made it across, jumped onto that leaf over there and then onto the box over here. I am not going to say how long it took. It became night and it became day and I was still busy trying to get here. I set up camp at the bottom there, but we have done it. We have our first milk molar. So you need an insect hammer to actually open it up. And if you do, you have access to the milk molar. And we are also going to get a mega milk molar on our little journey today. Now, the milk molars and the mega milk molars we will be using to upgrade ourselves, basically. So we'll be looking at that in a moment. For now, let us carry on our journey and use this zip line over here. And then as we get to that branch there, we'll just press left control. Yay! And they will just drop down. We can also just go right to the end there and then come back. But I prefer dropping off just because it's fun. Let's just make sure we have our hammer just in case there is something in here to smash. Doesn't look like it. There we go. There they are. So these are the old, I guess the old chefs or assistants to some extent. The Rusties. And they are vulnerable to hammers or to blunt weapons. In the lab here, it does seem that Dr. Wendell Tully was having a bit of issue with Ominent, most likely. He assumed that it was either his neighbor, Mr. Henderson, or the kids, or Ominent, that were causing trouble for him, and he was in the end pretty sure that it was, in fact, Ominent causing chaos for him, or causing him problems. Now, we've just received some quartzite shards there as well, which we can use to upgrade some of our weapons. And in here, we can just flip this switch. And this is going to allow us access to the Resource Surveyor, which is awesome and allows us to scan for certain resources. Any resources that we had or have already had access to, we will now be able to scan for, which is going to be marvelous. Now, one thing I will point out is that we do have these egg sacs that are here, and if we were to break them open, we'll find a whole bunch of spiderlings inside. And they are obviously not happy with us. Now, their appearance is like the... Oh, come on. Their appearance is like the wolf spiders, and pointing to some extent that they are possibly baby wolf spiders, but baby wolf spiders wouldn't be in webs like these. They would be carried on the mother's back until the point where they are ready to fend for themselves and go on their own little journeys. Now, cutting open these webs here, apart from the fact that it gives you, gets you attacked by up to 5 or more of these spiderlings, will also grant you access to some resources. Very often some rarer resources. We just got web fiber there and we've got gnat fuzz, but you can very often find things like stink bug parts or ladybug heads like this one here. Hello, there are 2 here. Now, something that is also interesting to note is that which is up here. Now, we are going to in future at some point go in there. And we are going to attack what is living in there. That is a bit of a boss fight. I'm definitely not up for the task yet. And I can't, initiate the boss fight in any case. But in there is a spider known as the Hedge Brood Mother. And that is what is called a spiny Orb Weaver spider. In South Africa, we call that a kite spider. And it is related to the Orb Weavers that we encounter in the yard. In this case, it is a massive species, and it's the only species in its genus in North America. And so after traversing a little bit from that little site over there, we now have access to the zip line, which will allow us to get into the Hedge Lab. Finally. Here we go. Now, of course, we can quickly scan the biometric scanner over here, and then we'll have to type in a password, which we don't have yet. And we have to explore the lab in order to get the password. So we can't just go and mash buttons. We have to find the password on these little written notes. So in the lab, eventually, we want to get into this little chamber over here, which requires the password. And you can get quite lost in this lab here. There are many of these doors, which can only be opened by first clearing the webs from the one side of the door and then actually going through. Now, these Orb Weaver Junior spiders, initially, I thought these were actually young ones of the Orb Weavers, but it's quite probable that they are in fact male Orb Weaver spiders, which is, interesting to think of. But the male Orb Weaver spiders are much smaller than the females. There is strong sexual dimorphism there, with the males and females are different sizes, different shapes, or different colorations. In this case, is seriously smaller. Now, the Orb Weaver spiders, the males, and here we can just clear the spider webs and we'll have access to the workbench over here if we wanted to make anything here. And there is the password over here as well, one of the little scribbles. We need, I think, 4 or 5 of them. But with the male Orb Weaver spiders, they are pretty much guaranteed that at some point they are going to die when they try to reproduce. So here's another door you can see here. It's stuck from the one side. You have to come from the other side and you'll have access to this. Now, with the male Orb Weaver spiders, they seem to be able to either try to mate with a female for a long period of time or a short period of time. And with the males being able to decide whether they want to mate for long or short, they have to decide. It's a bit of a trade-off for them, and that being with a female for longer almost ensures that your genes get passed on, and there's a higher chance of the female actually getting your sperm, and then there's a mega milk molar, yeah. And basically your genes being passed on, which is the objective of most creatures in life. But it's almost guaranteed that he's going to be eaten by the female. There's going to be sexual cannibalism there. Yes, it is moderately terrifying to hear about sexual cannibalism. I do agree, Pete. But there's a password over here. Be careful before you get it that you don't fall through the hole in the ground here. But if he mates with the female for long, there's almost guaranteed that he's going to have his genes passed on, but he is almost certain that he's going to die. If he breeds with a female for a shorter amount of time, if he mates with her for a shorter amount of time, there's a higher chance that he's going to survive, but his genes may not be passed on. So there is this trade-off that he will have to make and decide what he desires. And in many cases, with the first mating, the male will mate to the female for a shorter period of time, trying to just survive so that he can have a second attempt as well. And then with a second female, he will breed with her for longer, or mate with her for longer, basically guaranteeing that he's going to die, but his genes are almost certainly going to be passed on. There's just a little spiderling over here as well. Now, this here is the material storage, and on here there is another milk molar. So one has to gain access to this somehow. And we are probably going to have a zip line there. We'll have access to the zip line over there and hopefully be able to make our way across. Actually, we should be able to jump out here and gain access to this branch here, which should then allow us to drop onto this lab module over here. And there we go. Okay, great stuff. So this here is another milk molar. So we have a mega milk molar and 2 milk molars, normal milk molars that we want access to in the Hedge Lab area. But as I was saying, with the male Orb Weavers, they have this little bit of a trade-off to decide on. Now, I find this all very fascinating, and the more interesting bit is that males seem to be able to detect whether a female is related to him or not. And in cases where females are related to the male tends to the male tends to more frequently then have shorter breeding attempts rather than long breeding attempts or mating attempts with a female. And in cases where the female is unrelated to the male, he will then have a longer mating session. So this is a weird adaptation, and awesome adaptation at that, of the species trying to reduce potential inbreeding, which is amazing to think of, that they obviously don't want inbreeding, but they can't consciously go, oh, inbreeding is bad, let's not have inbreeding. And so they have developed this weird trait of males somehow detecting whether the female is related or not, and then in essence having longer or shorter mating attempts with her based on that. Now, just trying to find my way around here. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, now I'm not sure whether this is the last password. It is indeed. So we can now log into the terminal again. We just need to find our way there again. Now, we have finally gotten the entire password here. So let's type that in. That opens up this door over here and grants us access to to the Hedge superchip. And then, of course, we can take that back to Burgle, and we will then gain access to the Hedge recipes, basically. So in the little recording that was up there, it seems that Dr. Wendell Tully had encountered the broodmother up in the hedge, and he also was picking up some strange audio signals, probably marking Ominent being present in the area or in his backyard, watching him. And he obviously didn't like that, so yeah. We are just making our way home, going to sleep, and then we're going to go and get some more milk molars, and also then just go and hand in some things there with Burgle. So I'll see you in a moment. Now, as we arrive at our base here, you'll see what I have also done, just to make it easier, especially at night if running away from anything, to actually get onto or into our base. A whole little lit runway over here and some lights on the house as well, making it a bit more of a home. Also a few more lights inside here, just so that we can see a little bit better. Alrighty then, and we're just handing back the chip to Burgle. And after doing that, we now have access to a variety of things here on the ASL terminal. And Burgle has also marked on our map 3 other chips that we need access to, or we need to get. And that'll be the Hedge Lab over there, the Black Ant Lab over there, and the Pond Lab over there. And those are going to be some of our next missions. Now, of course, having finished the Hedge Lab, we now have access to some other things here as well. And I am most definitely going to get the Zip Lines one, as well as the Meat Shield mutation. Those are going to be the 2 that I'm going to be going for now. And we are also going to spend some of our normal milk molars. Spending the normal milk molars here just affects you as an individual player. Yes. But if you use the Mega Milk Molar, that affects everyone that joins your game. And these are things like the max consumable stack, so things like bandages and food, the stackings of that, things like mushrooms. The max resource stack, that will be things like the fiber and sprigs, all those types of things. And then max arrow stack size. And you can see here it goes up by 5 for every Mega Milk Molar that you spend. Now for me, I'm going to go with max consumable stack this time around. And next time I'll be going with max resource stack. And now that we have 3 potential mutations, or max active mutations that we can do, we're also going to put Meat Shield on there. So we've got Meat Shield, Parry Master, and Coup de Grace as our 3 active mutations. So thank you very much everyone for watching the video, and to those of you who have subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. You guys are legends. If you haven't done so yet, please do consider subscribing. It really helps the channel to grow. But until next time then, which will be this coming Friday, stay safe. I will see you all soon.